Here's a real piece of history. It's a U.S. Army Signal Corps radio receiver made for airplanes in World War I from 1917, type SCR 59. I presume SCR stands for Signal Corps Radio or receiver. Coming around to the back, you can see it has three very early type vacuum tubes, the VT1 Western Electric tube. This radio is operating. It's being supplied with 4 volts at 3 amps for the filaments of the tubes, 22.5 volts for the detector, and an additional 22.5 volts for a total of 45 volts for the B+ for the audio amplifiers and speaker output. This set has quite poor selectivity, having only a single tuned circuit. But we can tune in a few stations on it. They tend to overlap a bit. One thing I can show you is, first of all, push this button in for more amplification. That actually is an attenuator that switches a resistor in that reduces the level of the audio to make it adjustable. This is the power on-off for the tube filament, so it's the main power on-off for the entire unit. And then we've got 2 knobs here for tuning. This one selects between 4 different taps on this coil here for the so-called antenna inductance. And the lower knob is a variable capacitor, which you can see down below here. So let's try to tune in a few more stations. The station currently being tuned in is 1590. It's a Chinese station here in San Jose. Now I'm going to turn up the amplification. And then as I cruise down the dial, although it's mixed, there's now a Vietnamese station coming in as well. That's 1500. And there's a Mexican station in the jumble. I think that's 1340. And then the big kahuna here is an Indian station on 1170 that tends to overpower everything else. But we can get one more station. And there you have a mixture of, you hear a little English coming through there. That's 810 KSFO, another quite strong station. So the real problem with this receiver is not sensitivity. As you can see, it actually has enough sensitivity to drive the loudspeaker from the 1920s. Just not enough selectivity to separate the stations because there's only one tuned circuit. In the application for which this was intended, which was communications between airplanes within a squadron in somewhat tight formation, probably this was no issue. You all lined up your transmitters and receivers on the same frequency, and there was not likely to be an interfering station too close. So it probably worked very well for the intended application. The brick back here is simply to hold the thing stable. But if I pull that away, you can see the lid card with some diagrams of how this was to be used. You can see these pictures of headsets intended for the people listening to the radio. The circuit of the radio is here, and some instructions on how to connect the batteries and so forth. So that's it. This is the 1917 Army Signal Corps S.C.R. 59 radio. I don't know when the last time it played was. It might have been more than 100 years ago. It needed one tube filament resistor replaced before it would come to life, but after that, just cleaning up the contacts, and this was a good performing radio.